Although it might not seem so today, throughout the 1600s and well into the 1700s, the town of Lewes was at the edge of the world. Situated on a spit of land between the Delaware Bay and the Atlantic Ocean, Lewes was the last port before a trip across the Atlantic and the first port on the way to the much larger Philadelphia. This strategic location meant that Lewes, small though it was, sometimes played host to interesting and occasionally unsavory characters. The most infamous of these? Pirates. Pirates have seen a resurgence in art and pop culture throughout the years, largely due to the romantic illustrations and paintings of Delaware artist Howard Pyle. But these sentimental depictions often ignore piracy's complex and often violent history. One of the earliest pirates recorded in Lewes was Canute, who sailed into town in September of 1698, killed some sheep and hogs, and stole nearly everything. He was so brazen, he made the locals carry all of their own valuables onto his ship. He took so much from the townspeople, one man later testified there was, quote, scarce anything in the place to cover or wear. Canute's raid, though likely devastating, never made it into the annals of Lewes legend. That honor goes to a far more infamous pirate, Captain Kidd. Captain Kidd is one of the most famous pirates of the golden age of piracy, often discussed in the same breath as Blackbeard or Anne Bonny. He was initially a privateer with letters from the King of England saying that he could capture any enemy or pirate ships as prizes of war. The catch? He was expressly forbidden to, quote, offend or molest England's friends or allies. So, what went wrong? Captain Kidd got desperate. After sailing about with no prize in sight, he made the decision to capture a merchant, which was not an enemy. For this crime, he was charged with having become, quote, a pirate of the worst sort. Captain Kidd decided to sail for New York, where he could defend his decision before a court of law. In June of 1699, that journey took him past Cape Henlopen, and he decided to anchor just off of Lewistown. It seems that some of his crew likely jumped ship here rather than continue to the courts of New York, and several were captured in the area. While crew members were jumping off, merchants were jumping on. George Thompson, Peter Lewis, Henry Stretcher, William Orr, and Diggory Tenney, all merchants of Lewes, went on board, trading with Captain Kidd for the goods he had acquired through piracy. At that time, trading with a known pirate was no different than being a pirate yourself, and all of these men were captured for their crime. William Penn was lenient, simply suggesting that such men not be allowed to live near the sea coast in the future, lest they be tempted to deal with pirates again. Although they managed to escape serious punishment, Captain Kidd was not so lucky. He went on to New York, where he was convicted of piracy and sentenced to death, but not before he wrote a letter to the House of Commons in which he claimed, quote, I have buried goods and treasure to the value of 100,000 pounds, and will lead ye to it if pardoned. There are some who believe that buried treasure can be found here in Lewes or out on Cape Henlopen. Whether the treasure will ever be found, no one can say, but one thing is certain, in the 1600s, there were Buccaneers on the Delaware Bay.
Museum Minutes is brought to you by the Zwaanendael Museum in Lewes, Delaware, and by the Delaware Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs.